Am I the a-hole for canceling my plane ticket? I, 19F, have a best friend, 20F, who lives in another state. She has a boyfriend, 21M, who goes to school with us, but my best friend decided to go home for the summer, so it's just us. Her birthday is coming up and her boyfriend suggested that we fly out to go see her, which I was excited to do. We started making plans and it came time to book the tickets. None of us are rich, but they absolutely have more money than me, and it stressed me terribly to spend $500 on a ticket anywhere. I still bought it, because she is my friend and she means a lot to me. The two of them had been planning the trip without me and I was excited to see what they'd planned. Once we all got on FaceTime, I realized they planned one-on-one time every single day and I would be left in the city with no friends for hours on end. She didn't plan anything fun for just the two of us to do together. And on the first night, they planned to go on a walk together and leave me in the house with her parents and siblings, who I have never met, because they think the meetup would be anticlimactic if they didn't get alone time. Needless to say, I was furious. I know I am just the friend and he is the boyfriend, so he gets more time, but at the bare minimum I expected one thing blocked off for us to do. I felt like some sort of glorified travel buddy for her boyfriend and I didn't spend $500 just to do that. After the FaceTime I wrote them a text letting them know I didn't think I was comfortable going anymore. I still planned to send my friend's birthday gift to her house, but I did not want to go on the trip any longer. She immediately began backpedaling and saying we could change the plans, and I rebutted saying she knew that I'd been coming for weeks and it just was not a priority to her to factor any time with me into her plans. I've talked to some of my friends about this and they agree, saying I shouldn't go there just to sit in a foreign city by myself. Others have said I was too harsh and should have just toughed it out. So am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for humiliating my friend at my fundraiser because she outed me? I was at a fairly large fundraiser I organized tonight and it got completely ruined by my ex-friend, let's call her Jenna. I'm quite open with my friends about my line of work, sex work, but I'm not with family and those I don't know well. During the event I was talking to a group and Jenna blurts out she can donate so much because she makes so much making porn. I was stunned. It became incredibly awkward. I pulled Jenna aside and asked her what the hell? She said it wasn't a big deal. I told her it's a big deal to me. It's not her information to share. She tried dismissing it and I got angry. I told her to leave. It became a heated argument. After some back and forth I told her that at least I work for my money and don't need a rich partner, that I don't love to get the lifestyle I want. That is true. She told me in the past she's only with her boyfriend because he's rich. She still refused to leave and continued to cause a scene. Eventually I called security and had her kicked out. After the event I checked my phone. The argument we had got recorded, but only from part way through, so the bit about my work is missing, but there is the part with what I said about her partner and her being kicked out. It had been shared within our circle a lot. Jenna had blown up my phone. She is furious. Apparently her boyfriend saw it and broke up with her. She told me I humiliated her and ruined her relationship. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for deleting my cousin's wedding pictures that I wasn't paid for? My younger cousin's wedding was last December and she asked me to be the photographer for the wedding. I'm a semi-professional photographer. She told me what types of photos she wanted and I gave her a quote of just under 1K. Wedding happens, I take the pictures, I edit them, then wait for payment, which we agreed I'd get in full after the wedding before sending any pictures. However, suddenly she didn't have money and wanted to set up a payment plan to pay it off in 8 months and still get the pictures now. It's not that I don't trust her, but once you start opening such doors you'll find it hard to close them, so I told her we could do the payment plan but the photos will only be released when the full amount is paid. Didn't even add interest. She didn't respond. February rolls in and she asks to at least see samples to confirm that they were worth the price. I sent 4 pictures and she says she'll show them to her husband and get back to me. Cue silence for a week or two until I asked for an update and she responded saying she's still discussing it with him. I told her this was getting long and she must just start paying now, and she ignored me again. So I had saved the photos on my roommate's flash drive temporarily while I was waiting on an actual hard drive. June came around and he texted me while I was at work saying he needed to use it and took it from my room but saw that there were still files on it. He couldn't move it to his laptop because it didn't have space, thus him needing the flash, so he was asking if he could delete the files. I saw fine and he deleted them. I still had about 20 of the photos saved on my phone from when I was choosing/sending the samples, so I just explained the situation in a message to her and sent the existing photos free of charge. That was last month and I'm still getting flamed for this. She's been slandering me online and it's quite literally created a division between our families, and to the point that our mums don't talk now. I obviously feel bad but also feel like, given the circumstances, I wasn't really in the wrong, though still acknowledge that it's obviously very shitty for her that I would have wished to avoid. What do you guys think? Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for not staying with my wife during her C-section even after she asked? I don't like the operating room and, at some point of my life, hospital. When my ex-wife had her C-section, she had a complication and hovered between life and death for a long time. It was a horrible experience to feel so helpless. Currently, I deal with this in therapy. Several things have improved, but going into an operating room is a big no-no for me. When my ex had our second child, I was very nervous and she asked me to wait outside the operating room. When my current wife and I decided to try to have children, I made it very clear that I didn't care what her choice of delivery was, but C-section I would not enter, but that I would stay by her side at all times except for operation. She agreed and eventually became pregnant. She decided in the middle of the pregnancy that it would be a C-section and I said that was fine, but I remembered my limitation. She understood and invited her mother to take my place. On the day of the surgery, before she had a C-section, she asked me to come in with her, because she wanted a moment of her own. I apologized, but that this was my limit and that I couldn't. She said fine, I'll go with my mother then, and had a crying face. I tried talking to her but to no avail, and my mill kept looking at me disputing. Anyway, I don't think it would have been a hell, because I was very nervous and it definitely wouldn't have helped at all inside the operating room. Everything went well and our daughter was born beautiful and healthy. I was already at the exit of the operating room waiting for them and I didn't leave their side. Later, when we were alone, my wife said that I abandoned her at a vulnerable time and left her alone when she needed me most. I tried talking to her, but she said that now we need to focus on our daughter, but that she was disappointed in me as a partner. Apparently my mill told family members what I did and I'm being criticized. My wife and I have only talked about the baby and this has been going on for a week now. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for jumping out of the way when my niece and nephew tried to push me into a pool, resulting in them falling in? My folks decided to host a barbecue because I guess that's what older people do. I declined because I really don't like my two sisters, their husbands or their kids. Wife and I are child-free. Mom then pressured the wife. Long story short, we went. By the time we arrived there were about 20 people there. My sisters and their husbands were already solidly buzzed. My mom was spending 100% of her time trying to keep the nieces and nephews, ages 7 to 11, more or less under control. My dad had strategically retreated to the whirlpool part of the pool with small cooler full of beers. Wife and I made small talk with miscellaneous people, ate food and had a frozen margarita. Sisters/Bills took turns criticizing us for being late, not being in our swimsuits and screwing up the vibe. Whatever. Typical suburban summer get-together. About 45 minutes in, two of the kids ran at one of the neighbor guests who was standing next to the pool and pushed her in. She was at the pool steps, stumbled in but didn't fall, so only got half wet. She was clearly very unhappy about it, but she didn't make a scene, just went over to where the parents were, grabbed their towels, dried herself off and left. Sisters and Bills thought it was all great fun. A bit later I was standing a few feet away from the pool chatting away with someone. I saw 3 of the kids running full tilt at me from the corner of my eye. Obviously I was next. Not that it's terribly difficult to outwit young kids, but I just jumped out of their way at the last second. All 3 of them ran straight into the pool at full speed. Most of the other guests, including my wife and me, started laughing, but their moms, who as I mentioned were pretty buzzed, absolutely freaked out. Apparently 2 of the kids couldn't swim even though they were in swimsuits. Since I wasn't in swim gear I stepped back from the pool and let other people fish the kids out. The kids were bawling their heads off like they'd lost a limb. At that point all hell broke loose. The 4 drunk parents were yelling at everyone in general and me in particular for nearly letting their kids drown, and also because 2 of the kids had been videoing the trick using their parents' iPhones, which were now at the bottom of the pool. One of my Bills got into the pool to try to retrieve the phones, but his BMI and BAC made that impossible. No one else volunteered to help, unsurprising given that my sisters were still moaning. I told my sisters it was their job to watch the other kids and that if anything had happened to them it would have been their responsibility, not mine. There were some pretty strong words on both sides. Wife and I left after the other Bill fell over and face planted while yelling at us. Now they're saying I should have let them knock me into the pool and have their fun, and ruin my phone.